Hello, my name is Elizabeth. I'm 40 years old and have been married twice. My current marriage is everything I could have hoped for, but my first marriage was a different story. Thomas and I were the typical high school sweethearts, the jock and the cheerleader. He brought me so much joy, and being my first love, I invested everything in it, convinced that we were meant to be together forever. We even planned to attend the same university, wanting to stay close. But when I was 20, during my sophomore year, I found out I was pregnant. The news was a shock to me and to my family. My mother, who had always been wary of Thomas, had sensed something off about him, but I was determined to prove her wrong. Despite her reservations, my family agreed to support us through our education until we could stand on our own feet. I'm grateful for that. We got married in a small courthouse ceremony and, soon after, welcomed our first child. For a while, Thomas was a dedicated father, and I felt reassured in my choice to marry him. But things started to change when I was pregnant with our second child. By then, I had graduated and had to leave my job to care for the children while Thomas worked hard to support us. But just a few months after our second child was born, Thomas became distant. His behavior shifted drastically, and despite my attempts to reach out, he remained aloof. Then one day, after taking the kids out, I returned to find the apartment completely empty. His belongings were gone. In a panic, I tried reaching him, but he didn't respond. I was left alone, with my children crying, and no answers. Desperate, I went to my mother's house. When she saw me, she immediately let us in. Alarmed by my distress, I explained the situation through tears, struggling to understand why Thomas had suddenly disappeared. My mother, ever the steady presence, suggested we wait before making any drastic decisions, like filing for divorce. She offered her full support, no matter the outcome. Though I still loved Thomas, I couldn't comprehend how he could abandon his children. I was filled with sadness, confusion, and a longing for answers, but my mother's advice resonated. We needed to focus on moving forward, not for me, but for the kids. The next few months were a blur of tears and determination. I adjusted to life as a single mother, raising two children who reminded me so much of their father. Every night, I cried myself to sleep, but over time, the intense emotions began to fade. When my children asked about their father, I eventually told them the truth. They were understandably upset, but they also showed an impressive maturity in their understanding. Through it all, my mother was my rock, making single parenthood more bearable than I ever thought possible. Then, 11 years later, my life took a surprising turn. I met Jack, my now husband, in the most ordinary of settings, a bar during a friend's birthday celebration. My mother had agreed to watch the kids, giving me a rare chance to unwind. I spent most of the evening chatting with friends, but as the night went on, Jack approached me. My friends had long encouraged me to give dating another try, but the scars from my past with Thomas made me hesitant. Yet, there was something about Jack that made me want to let my guard down. He started by offering to buy me a drink, a gesture I accepted. We sat and waited for our drinks, before diving into a deeper conversation. "So, what brings you here?" Jack asked, his interest genuine. "It's my friend's birthday. I'm just here to celebrate with her," I replied. "That's nice. How about I send drinks over to your whole group?" he offered, generously. "All of them? There are 6 people there," I said, taken aback by his kindness. "It's all right, I've got it covered," he said, his warmth and generosity striking me in a way I hadn't felt in a long time. That was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. Jack's gesture, small as it may have seemed, marked the start of something special, hope for a future filled with love beyond the pain of the past. Over the next couple of hours, we chatted and laughed, and Jack joked about his financial status after offering to buy drinks for my friends. "So, you must be pretty well off," I teased. He chuckled. "You could say that, but I don't flaunt it. It's just nice to do something special, especially for a birthday." I admired his humility. It was impressive. So many people try to be modest, but it often comes off as boastful. Yet, here was Jack, doing it just to make someone's day a little brighter. That kind of kindness wasn't something you saw every day. Jack smiled, his eyes twinkling. "I guess I'm a sucker for making a good impression, especially around beautiful women." I laughed, teasing him about his apparent vulnerability. "Really? Does every pretty face make you this generous?" "Maybe," he grinned, "but hey, it's your friend's birthday, not a lie, right?" "Absolutely true," I replied playfully, warning him about his weakness. He then suggested, with a hint of flirtation, that having a beautiful woman by his side might cure him of his broad susceptibility. Our conversation flowed easily, something that surprised me, given my introverted nature. Maybe it was Jack's charisma or the laid-back atmosphere, but I found myself talking freely, more than I normally would. As the night wore on, My friends and I thanked Jack for his generosity before saying our goodbyes. We exchanged numbers. And from there, it was the beginning of constant messages and calls. Our talks ranged from the trivial to the exciting, and over time, Jack became woven into the fabric of my daily life. Our early public meetups soon transitioned into more personal settings, visits to each other's homes. I'll never forget the first time I saw Jack's house. It was nothing short of a mansion. He laughed at my surprise, modestly acknowledging it, but he hinted at a future that could include sharing such luxury. He was candid about his intentions, telling me he wanted marriage and a life together. His comfort with me, his openness, was unlike anything I had ever experienced, and it made me fall for him even more. Jack embraced the idea of my children as his own with genuine concern and affection, and it deepened my love for him. When I finally opened up about my past with Thomas, Jack's response was nothing short of extraordinary. He went to great lengths to demonstrate his love and commitment, making it clear how different he was from Thomas. It helped me understand why so many people had reservations about my first relationship. The end of my marriage with Thomas had been painful, but Jack helped me move forward in a way I never thought possible. I was immensely grateful. We didn't wait long before getting married, just a year of dating. We opted for a destination wedding, keeping the event small and intimate with only our closest friends and family. My children were thrilled about the union and often expressed how much they loved Jack, marking another positive development in our lives. With Jack, all my concerns seemed to melt away. Not only did he accept my children as his own, but he also supported their education, despite my insistence that I could handle it. He even personalized their rooms to match their tastes before we all moved in together, showing how dedicated he was to being a part of our lives. Jack's actions were a stark contrast to Thomas's, and they played a huge role in healing our family. It wasn't long before Jack and I welcomed a child together, yet, he never showed favoritism. He treated all the children equally. A year into our marriage, my children asked Jack to legally adopt them, solidifying our bond as a family. From then on, we did everything together, dining out, vacationing, and simply enjoying each other's company. My career was thriving, and Jack's business was flourishing too. Life felt perfect, and before I knew it, 6 years had passed. Then, unexpectedly, I was caught off guard when I received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was unmistakable. "Hello, guess who it is?" I paused, confused. "Who is this?" "It's Thomas. How have you been?" Stunned, I replied, "Thomas, how did you even find my number?" His response was dismissive. "Forgot how you always complained. I just found your number, that's all." The call from Thomas was a shock, especially after years of building a new life without him. His sudden reappearance, and the casual way he reached out, stirred up a whirlwind of emotions that challenged the peace I had fought so hard to create with Jack and our family. Thomas's tone suggested he was looking for a casual chat, but our past was anything but that. He rationalized his departure by claiming that we were heading for divorce due to our constant struggles, insisting he left to spare us the emotional turmoil. "You're something else, truly," I responded, barely containing my disbelief, leaving without a word. "And now this call? It's unbelievable." Thomas seemed unfazed. He went on about his new life, married to a wealthy woman, and how he had embraced her children because of their financial status. It was a side of him I knew all too well. He boasted about landing a high-paying job through her connections, declaring that he was living his dream. "So you've essentially replaced your children with someone else's, for the sake of money?" I asked, my voice dripping with disdain. "Well, you do what you have to, right?" he replied nonchalantly. His words made my stomach turn. I told him, with as much conviction as I could muster, never to contact me again, and ended the call. The audacity of Thomas to boast about his affluent lifestyle left me seething, but it wasn't just anger I felt. It was sorrow, not for myself, but for my children who had grown up largely without their father. His willingness to forsake them for financial gain was a painful reminder of the challenges we had faced starting our family so young. Revolted by his selfishness and lack of integrity, I blocked his number, determined to leave that chapter of my life behind. Later, I shared the ordeal with Jack, understandably upset. He supported my decision to block Thomas, but my resolve was tested just a week later when I received another call from an unknown number. It was Thomas again. Frustrated, I wondered how many times I would have to distance myself from a past that refused to let go. His calls became a relentless showcase of his newfound wealth. He eagerly shared stories of his latest extravagant purchases and the achievements of his new family. My patience wore thin, and soon I found myself disconnecting his calls without a second thought. But he didn't stop. He used various numbers to bypass my blocks, seemingly enjoying the disruption he caused. Eventually, I resorted to ignoring his calls altogether, though he continued to reach out sporadically, relishing in the annoyance he stirred in my life. One particularly stressful day at work, Thomas's call came through again. His voice dripped with arrogance as he greeted me, but I had no interest in entertaining his provocations. He tried to engage me with tales of his success, hinting that he wanted to make me envious of his lavish lifestyle and recent promotion at a prestigious media company. Despite my frustration, I knew I couldn't let him get to me any longer. I abruptly ended the conversation, refusing to let his boastful words get to me, but something about his declaration lingered, refusing to fade. Digidome, that name echoed in my mind. It was a major player in the media industry, famous for promoting top influencers and journalists, and I couldn't ignore its connection to my husband, Jack, the CEO and founder. The twist of fate felt surreal, an unexpected opening to not only deal with Thomas's incessant calls, but also address the deeper wound of his abandonment. Eagerly, I waited for Jack to come home, practically buzzing with the astonishing revelation I couldn't wait to share. As soon as he walked through the door, I couldn't hold back my excitement, dropping hints about a discovery that would change everything. Jack, initially focused on his protective instincts over the harassment from Thomas, was taken aback, but as I told him about the connection to Digidome, the room grew heavy with a mix of shock and anticipation. This unexpected link to Thomas through Jack's company felt like an opportunity to right some of the wrongs he'd inflicted, not just on me, but on our children as well. We were both stunned, but a strategy quickly began to take form, one driven not by revenge, but by the pursuit of justice for the emotional and familial neglect he'd caused. We decided to record his calls over the coming weeks, using them as the foundation for our plan. Digidome was preparing for a major event in 5 months, and it would be the perfect stage to confront him. As the date drew closer, my anticipation built. I had reservations about attending such a large event, especially given my aversion to being in the spotlight, but the idea of seeing Thomas face the consequences of his actions was too compelling to pass up. Jack, understanding my hesitation, bought me a beautiful dress, one that symbolized the dignity with which we'd approach this moment. The plan was set. The day of the event arrived, and as I waited in the car, Jack took the stage. He announced he wanted to introduce his wife to the company for the first time, setting the stage for a dramatic revelation. When I stepped onto the stage, Thomas was already there, his face draining of color as he recognized me. I couldn't help but let a small smirk slip as I walked past him, noting his desperate attempts to wipe away the sweat from his brow. Jack praised me publicly, sharing how much I had impacted his life and the joy we found co-parenting our children. With each word, Thomas seemed to shrink, visibly sweating under the weight of the situation. The audience's applause was a sweet moment of recognition for all we had achieved together. Then Jack shifted gears, discussing the harassment I'd endured from Thomas, the man who had abandoned his family for a wealthier life. The room was filled with gasps as Jack revealed that Thomas was the one behind the harassment. Then came the bombshell. Jack played the recordings of Thomas's arrogant, boastful calls, the very ones he'd made to me. The evidence was undeniable, frozen in place. Thomas could only watch as his own words echoed through the room. With the crowd in stunned silence, Jack announced Thomas's termination from Digidome, a decision that was met with overwhelming support. The moment was a triumph, not just for me but for our entire family. As we exited the stage, I felt a sense of vindication wash over me. Thomas was swiftly escorted out, and the event continued without a hitch. It was the sweet culmination of a challenging journey, a testament to the power of standing up for what's right. The next day brought another unexpected turn of events, an offer for a new position at a firm, a direct result of the strength and resilience I had shown. It felt like the universe had aligned in the most fitting way, rewarding me for moving forward. The following week, I received another call from an unknown number. It was Thomas again. "Quite daring of you to call me again," I remarked. He immediately accused me of deception, demanding to know why I hadn't told him I remarried, especially to someone so important. I had made it clear to him countless times that his presence, or lack thereof, no longer meant I owed him any explanations. "I've moved on, Thomas. I don't care about you or what you think," I replied, firmly. Thomas tried to manipulate the conversation, claiming that knowing my husband's identity would have made him reconsider his actions. "So, you're saying you'd only stop harassing me because my husband is your boss? That's not decency, that's self-preservation," I countered. He seemed to misunderstand the concept of decency, especially after abandoning his own family for a wealthier life. He then tried to shift the blame onto me, claiming that his recent troubles, his wife leaving him and taking the children, were somehow my fault. But I didn't let him off the hook. "You've made your choices, Thomas. This mess is your own doing." It felt empowering to stand my ground and refuse to let his blame-shifting affect me. I wished him luck, hoping he'd find a new path, one that might help him reflect on the damage his choices had caused. That final conversation marked the end of that chapter. Now, I could move forward with Jack and our children, focused on the love and peace that had filled our lives. The strength and clarity gained from this journey were invaluable, and I felt a sense of completion. The past was finally behind me, and our future was looking brighter than ever.